Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 61 of the podcast, and I remain your host, Mobi. For today, we will continue our discussions on the report by the ACCA and PAFA, that's the Pan African Federation of Accountants. But before we go into that, I would just start to address. I know some people have asked me questions on different occasions. How come you're consistent? How have you been able? How do you get to do it? Don't you get tired? Don't you get? Yes, I do. Just like every other person. Like sometimes you're not in the mood. Sometimes you're in the mood. They are different. There are times, there are highs and lows. But once you've committed, but it's just a case of since you've committed to do something, you just have to get it done one way or the other. Sometimes I have to literally drag myself to record something, but I will dedicate an episode one day to share my story, the journey so far, the highs and lows of it. But let's just go right into today's episode. Last week, we started discussions on assessing readiness of accountancy and finance professionals in respect of the AfCFTA. We looked at the level of awareness and participation in the AfCFTA. So today we are starting discussions on 7 categories of information gaps. So in the survey conducted, to ask the professionals what's the them beneficial, or what will they find most beneficial to give them a better understanding of the opportunities posed by the AfCFTA. So 7 categories of information gaps were identified. We will start with that this week, then we'll complete it next week. So let's start. So the first one is the information that the professionals have identified. Number 1, the benefits, role or impact of the AfCFTA, including membership information and requirements. Some of the questions asked include what AfCFTA is, how can it benefit me and my country, who regulates it, and whether my country is part of its development. Number 2, the role of AfCFTA, its social and economic benefit to the business person and an ordinary citizen, and the role that AfCFTA plays and how it plays its role in relation to the laws and regulations. So they were basically keen to connect the dots between the AfCFTA and its direct social and economic benefits in their communities. Okay, that's interesting. Some of these questions, if you go back to the early days of the podcast, that the beginning introduction, between episode 1 to 10, I have answered some of these questions really. So if you're really interested in knowing about it, please, you need to start from the beginning. I broke it down, the history, what the AfCFTA is, who are the parties to the AfCFTA, and some other information. So let's go to category 2. So the category 2 question is the countries or governments who are participating in AfCFTA, and the questions that they have asked is countries that have adopted. They would like to know the professionals in the finance and accounting sector. They would like to know the countries that have adopted and implemented trade under the AfCFTA, list of countries which signed the AfCFTA agreement, and the products that are covered by this trade agreement, participating countries, and exemptions and minimum standard. I have also answered these questions in previous episode. Like 54 African countries have signed the AfCFTA agreement, and about 46 or 47 have ratified the agreement so far. So please listen to previous episodes, and I also have episode where I share updates in respect of the AfCFTA, countries that are joining, that's ratifying the agreement. So some of this information you can also share the podcast and share it. It gets a lot of people. There's still information gap, and this is what this podcast is also trying to address, to help people to increase awareness about the AfCFTA and its direct benefits as well. So please do that. Let's go to the last information that we're going to address today. We will discuss the other in next week's episode. So this one is customs information or procedure for exports, duties, taxes. So what are the custom duties, movement restrictions and regulations? tax implications of trade for AfCFTA members, import and export guidelines, comparative analysis of the legal and regulatory instrument covering cross-border trade. So that's the information that the professionals have indicated that they are interested in, and of course, in respect to it, they're interested in information on the procedural framework for cross-border trading using the AfCFTA. And a particular area of interest was the taxation of freely traded goods and services. Okay, maybe I should add one more to it. That's number 4 before we go. So number 4 is information on trade tariffs, agreements, standards, and restrictions. The professionals were interested in knowing about information on trade facilities, tax incentives, custom tariffs, and facilities for using the AfCFTA route. They want the information to be visible and accessible to all types and categories of business, trade barriers and how to deal with them, eligibility to trade, and processes on how to be a part of the Pan-African trade. And another fundamental aspect which they display the knowledge gap is how trade tariffs will be managed and the criteria goods must meet to be considered for concessionary tariff waivers. So in respect of tariff waivers, if you listen to my episode on rules of origin, that's the rules that determine the preferential treatment that should be applied to products, that shows if a product is qualified for preferential treatment under the AfCFTA. I've done some episodes on that, so you can also listen to those episodes to help you gain more information. And this is where we're going to stop for today. And as usual, the podcast is basically for educational purposes. If you need more details or further information, please reach out to me, and you can also contact me on LinkedIn, Mobola Decola. And please share the podcast. Let it go around this issue. This is what the podcast has got, especially information gaps, and this is what the podcast is doing, trying to address that area. There's some of support to small business, to entrepreneurs, and even young to trying to get more, even professionals, because apparently it's not just small business, it's even professionals that are trying to gain more information about the AfCFTA and its likely impacts and benefits. So until next week, I remain your host, Omobi. Bye bye.